Well, this video is going to be an odd one. Today's lecture is
physical versus digital.
I say that because I'm going to need to do some live video for a few things, so this'll be fun. And no face cam or face reveal. I didn't make this model myself for nothing.
But you didn't make it.
Like half of it, whatever. If you followed along with the last lecture, you've got a good amount of experience with physical. If you didn't, some of this might not hit quite the same way. So this should go without saying, but both have their upsides and downsides. So let's get physical. First off, the cards can get very pricey. Second, they start to take up a lot of room. Editor me, remember to grab a picture of the card shelf. It has many cards in it.
That's quite the mess you have there.
Yes, there's an organization, and no, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Third, you'll want a way to protect your cards, so you'll want to grab a few sets of card sleeves. There's a few different kinds and sizes, so the size you'll want is the standard size, 66mm by 91mm. Yu-Gi-Oh cards are just a touch smaller, so be careful or you'll end up with a bunch of wrong-sized sleeves like I did. There are also penny sleeves, which are the thin, clear sleeves that a lot of sports cards use, which are a touch larger than the Pokemon cards, but will work anyways. There are also those kinds of sleeves that are called perfect fit sleeves, and as the name implies, perfectly fit the card. The main sleeves come in a few different brands too, but I personally don't have a preference for brand. I have a bunch of them from Ultra Pro, but I hear Dragon Shield sleeves are good quality. The Elite Trainer boxes that are sold also come with sleeves, as well as packs, tokens, and dice for counting health, so you could grab some of those too. Do be careful, though. The older Elite Trainer box sleeves are basically garbage, but the newer ones are actually pretty nice. At least in comparison. So why bother with card sleeves? If you don't, I will hunt you down. But really, these cards cost a lot, so why ruin them? Especially with the higher rarities that can cost $50 or more per card, so you really don't want to damage them. Speaking of not damaging cards, the fourth point requires a video. This video will cover proper shuffling techniques, since that's another thing you don't need to think of when playing digitally. The first method I will show is called riffle shuffling. As you can see, it's about what you'd expect from shuffling cards. This is also an example of how not to shuffle any trading cards. Again, when some individual cards can cost triple figures, you absolutely do not want to even consider the possibility of even maybe perhaps thinking about damaging the cards. And this method of shuffling will quite quickly do just that. This is also why I used playing cards for that example. This next technique is called overhand shuffling, and is pretty well the standard shuffling for any TCG. As you can see, it still shuffles the deck quite nicely, but it does so without bending the cards. It'll take practice to master, but with as often as you shuffle the cards in this game, you'll have it down in like a week. This last method will show you another sometimes used shuffling method, but really isn't the quickest to use, called pile shuffling. As you can see, you basically split your deck into roughly 6 or so piles, one by one, until you have no more cards left to divvy out. The main time this method is used is before a game starts, as it's supposed to give you a better randomization to your deck that overhand shuffling doesn't give, but the discussion of truly random versus sufficiently random is another entire video on its own. I learned quite a bit about it when writing the deck shuffling algorithm for the Pokemon deck tester. Plus, pile shuffling takes up quite a bit of room that you usually don't have when you're in the middle of a game. Quite a few differences and/or downsides for physical, huh?
Yep.
But what are some of the positives? For one, actual human interaction.
Why would you ever want that?
I know, tell me about it. Obviously, this requires someone else to play with, but I find way more enjoyment in the game if I can actually interact with my opponent in a way that isn't just emoji spam and 4 canned responses. Did you know that the Pokemon trading card game online had a full-fledged chat room for every match? And can you imagine why it was replaced with emojis and canned responses? So, yeah. Reason 2, you actually own the cards. Sure, they take up a lot of room, but the collector in me enjoys seeing the physical cards more than just an image on a computer screen. Now for the digital. First, the cards cost nothing, but time. Since the Pokemon card game Live has no trading system, even though this is a trading card game, frankly, I wouldn't trust them to know how to even set up a trading system, given the game is still considered in beta 2 years later.
Not like yours is done yet.
It would be if I weren't the only one working on it, and I tend to aim for perfection before full functionality. Even one of my college professors kept telling us, the code can be as pretty and perfect as possible, but if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Focus on functionality before making the program look pretty. You're computer science majors, not visual tech majors. At least something along those lines. It's been far too long since I've been in college. Anyways, where was I? Second reason for digital over physical. Digital has a ton of automations, and as such can save a lot of time. If you could turn off all those stupid battle animations. Woo, my Pokemon dealt over 100 damage, so now my screen is flashing and shaking for a full 10 seconds. But guess what? Every Pokemon does that. We don't need to see it every time. Which, that's actually another option that Pokemon Trading Card Game Online took out. You used to have the option of minimal animations, which showed almost nothing more than the deck being shuffled. Can you guess why the Pokemon deck tester has no animations whatsoever? So the third reason for digital, you can always find someone to play against. Again, there's almost no interactions with them besides emoji spam, but I guess that means you can cuss them out for the deck they're playing, or for hitting every coin flip as heads while all of yours are tails, without them hearing your profanities. It's something, I guess. Fourth, it's all digital, so no space requirements, besides some hard drive space, that is. I guess a fifth would be, since the Pokemon card game Live is on phones, you can actually play anywhere you want. But then you have such a tiny amount of screen space for the game that it really makes you wonder why you were even doing it on your phone in the first place. Like really, each card is just the upper half of the card because, oops, phone screens are way smaller than computer screens, so of course we fit the game to mobile and told desktop users to shove it.
You seem a tad salty.
Look at this interface, it's terrible. Granted, mine isn't the most impressive thing you'll ever see, but look at this! Like half of the middle area is absolutely nothing, but the top and bottom are absolutely crammed. And it's even worse on mobile. How did this ever get past proposal phase?
Monetization.
Very true. Because why have one currency when you can have 3 and 2 separate battle passes with one that costs the premium currency for maximum profit? I hate what this has become. Yet another good reason why I wrote the Pokemon deck tester. Enjoy the Pokemon deck tester today! I gotta do something to get my mind off that crap. So, there are probably other pros and cons for both that I haven't listed, but there is one more reason to go with physical. Almost all official tournaments are physical only, outside of a certain global pandemic that happened over the last few years. So if you plan on trying for Worlds, or you just want a group of people to hang around for a few hours a week, you'll need to get physical cards for the tournament. Speaking of tournaments, learn some etiquette. Don't be a jerk, try not to bully the new players, and have proper hygiene. You're stuck in a pretty small room with many grown men, wear some deodorant.
Don't be like the Smash Brothers Melee players.
I've been around some pretty foul smells while at the weekly tournaments. It's pretty bad. And I have almost no sense of smell, and yet have smelled these people on occasions. So if I can smell it, it is bad. But seriously, I've had almost no sense of smell my entire life. If there's something I can actually smell, usually after about 10 seconds I can't smell it anymore. I know of one other person that has this same issue, and she lives in England. So yeah, be a decent human. That just about does it for today's lecture. My preference should be pretty obvious, but physical. Yours may match, it may not, and that's totally fine. We're all in different situations and have different preferences. Just take some time trying both before fully committing to one or the other. Not to say that you can't do both, but doing both tends to eat up a lot of time. The next lecture is
Building on a budget.
where you'll learn some great tips on how to play the physical side of the game for much cheaper than you'd probably think. See you next lecture.